cleaning lady was unfairly fired. But the millionaire's attitude shocked everyone. Rebecca Johnson never imagined that after 15 years of honest and dedicated work in the most respected business tower in Denver, her life could fall apart in a matter of minutes. She had arrived early as she always did, preparing for another day of cleaning the luxurious offices on the 20th floor. When the Human Resources Director Richard Wilson appeared at the cleaning room door with a furious expression, Rebecca felt her heart race. He was holding an empty cardboard box and looking at her with contempt. "Rebecca, I want you to explain to me where my Omega watch that was in my office drawer is," said Richard, crossing his arms. "What watch, Mr. Richard? I never saw any watch on your desk," replied Rebecca, genuinely confused. "Don't play dumb. Last night it was there. This morning it's gone. You were the only person who had access to my office after hours." Rebecca felt her legs tremble. She knew that look of Richard's well, the same one he used whenever he wanted to humiliate her in front of other employees. But this time was different. This time he wasn't just being cruel. He was being dangerous. "Mr. Richard, I swear on my late mother's soul that I never touched anything in your office besides cleaning. I just wiped the desk and vacuumed the floor, nothing more." "Stop lying, Rebecca. I've already called security to search your belongings. If we find the watch, I'll call the police." Rebecca's heart raced. She thought of her 17-year-old daughter Emily, who depended entirely on her salary to study for her college entrance exams. She thought of the mortgage payment for the house she had finally managed to buy after years of renting. "Please, Mr. Richard, you've known me for 15 years. I've never even taken a pen that wasn't mine. Please check the security cameras." Richard laughed scornfully. "The cameras in my office have been under maintenance for a week. How convenient for you, isn't it?" Two security guards appeared at the door. Rebecca recognized Michael and Robert, who always greeted her warmly when she arrived for work. "Michael, Robert, you know me. I would never do such a thing," said Rebecca, her eyes already welling up. Michael lowered his gaze, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "Sorry, Rebecca, but these are orders," he murmured. They searched Rebecca's bag, her pockets, even the lunchbox she brought for lunch. Naturally, they found nothing. "You must have hidden it somewhere else or passed it to some accomplice," said Richard, not seeming at all surprised by the search result. "Mr. Richard, this isn't fair. I need this job. My daughter is in her senior year of high school. She needs to study. You should have thought of that before stealing. You're fired for cause. Get your things and leave. Now." Rebecca broke down in tears. 15 years of work, 15 years always arriving on time, never missing a day, always treating everyone with respect and kindness. And now she was being thrown out like a criminal. "At least give me the right to defend myself. Let me speak with Mr. William," begged Rebecca, referring to the building owner. Richard laughed loudly. "Mr. William doesn't bother with little problems of cleaning staff. He has more important things to deal with. Security. Escort her out." As Rebecca gathered her few belongings from the service area locker, Richard walked away with a satisfied smile on his face. He didn't know that 3 floors above, William Parker, 52 years old, owner of one of the largest construction companies in the state, was watching everything through the building's security cameras. William had arrived early for an important meeting and decided to check the building's activity through the monitoring system. When he saw the scene unfolding on the 20th floor, something deeply troubled him. He knew Rebecca by sight. All these years, he always greeted her in the elevators, and she always responded with a genuine and respectful smile. He had never noticed anything suspicious in her behavior. But what intrigued him the most was Richard's reaction. The director seemed too pleased, not like someone who had just discovered a theft, but like someone who had just executed a plan. William paused the recording and went back to analyze the past few days. He had access to all the building's cameras, including the one in Richard's office. And what he saw left him perplexed. There was no Omega watch on Richard's desk. Not yesterday, not last week, not last month. William checked months of recordings, and in none of them did any expensive watch appear in the director's office. Meanwhile, Rebecca walked through the streets of Denver toward the bus stop, carrying a small box with her belongings and a broken heart. Tears blurred her vision, but she had to be strong. She needed to think about how she would tell Emily that she had lost her job. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The bus took 40 minutes to reach the outskirts where Rebecca lived with her daughter. The whole way she couldn't stop crying. The other passengers looked at her curiously, but she didn't care. Her life had just fallen apart. When she got home, Emily hadn't returned yet from her prep course. Rebecca sat in the small living room and looked around. The old television, the sofa she had bought used, the family photos on the wall, all of that was threatened now. She picked up the phone and called Dorothy, her neighbor and friend of decades. "Dorothy, can you come over? I need to talk to someone." Dorothy, 68 years old, had been like a mother to Rebecca since she was widowed 10 years ago. In a few minutes, she was at the door, seeing her friend's state. "My God, Rebecca, what happened?" Between sobs, Rebecca told the whole story. Dorothy hugged her tightly. "This can't be it, my dear. You're the most honest person I know. There must be some explanation." "Dorothy, he said the cameras were broken. How am I going to prove my innocence?" "You need to fight. You can't let that man destroy 15 years of honest work." When Emily arrived from her prep course at 6 in the evening, she found her mother and Dorothy sitting at the kitchen table with serious faces. "Mom, what's going on? Why are you home so early?" Rebecca took a deep breath. Emily was a smart and determined girl. She dreamed of studying medicine. All of this was going to deeply affect the girl's plans. "Emily, sit here. I need to tell you something." When Rebecca finished explaining the situation, Emily was silent for a few minutes. Then, her eyes filled with tears of anger. "This is an injustice, Mom. You've never hurt anyone in your life. That Richard always treated you badly, always humiliated you. Now he made up this lie to hurt you even more." "Emily, being upset won't help. I need to find another job quickly." "No, Mom. We're going to fight. Tomorrow I'll go with you to that building and we'll demand explanations. We'll look for that, Mr. William." Rebecca squeezed her daughter's hand. Even in the face of tragedy, Emily maintained the determination that had always characterized her. Meanwhile, William continued in his office, analyzing the recordings. There was something very wrong with that story, and he was determined to find out what. He decided to check the termination records from the last few months. What he found left him even more intrigued. In the past 6 months, 5 cleaning staff members had been fired for just cause, all for alleged theft, all terminated by the same human resources director. William picked up the phone and called Jennifer, his personal assistant. "Jennifer, I need you to bring me all the termination reports from the last 6 months, and I also want the hiring data for new employees to replace those who were let go." Within half an hour, Jennifer was in his office with the requested folders. "Mr. William, is there something specific you're looking for? I want to understand why we're having so many problems with theft in the cleaning team." William opened the reports, and his suspicion was confirmed. All the terminated employees had been with the company for over 10 years and had above-average salaries for their positions. All had been replaced by people who agreed to work for lower pay. Even more intriguing was the fact that in none of the cases had there been a thorough investigation or police reports. The thefts had never been reported to the authorities. "Jennifer, also bring me the information about the salaries paid to the new employees versus those who were fired." The numbers didn't lie. Richard was saving almost 40% of the cleaning team's payroll through this strategy of terminations and rehirings. William felt a growing anger, not just because of the dishonesty, but also because of the cruelty of destroying innocent lives out of greed. The next morning, Rebecca woke up early as she always did, but this time she had nowhere to go. Emily had already left for her prep course when she got up. She decided to start looking for a job immediately. She picked up the newspapers and began circling the ads for cleaning positions. She had savings to last at most 2 months without work. At 10 in the morning, she called the first company on the list. "Hello, I'd like to inquire about the cleaning assistant position in the newspaper." "Of course, ma'am. Can you give me your references from previous jobs?" "I worked 15 years at the Central Business Tower." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Oh, I see, thank you, but the position has already been filled. Rebecca thought it was strange. The ad had come out in the paper that same day. She tried 3 more companies and received similar responses. Whenever she mentioned her last job, the positions were already filled. In the afternoon, she decided to go in person to one of the companies. The receptionist greeted her coldly. "Are you Rebecca Johnson, who worked at the Central Tower?" "Yes, that's me. I'm sorry, but we can't hire you. We've already received information about your situation." Rebecca felt the world spinning. Richard had spread lies about her all over town. When Emily returned from her prep course and learned what had happened, she was furious. "Mom, this is persecution. He can't do this to you. Tomorrow I'm going to that building and I'm going to confront this Richard personally." "Emily, no. You can't get involved in this. It could harm your studies." "Mom, you sacrificed everything for me all these years. Now it's my turn to fight for you." The next morning, while Rebecca left for another job search marathon, Emily took 2 buses to the city center. She was determined to speak with someone who could hear the truth about her mother. Arriving at the Central Tower, Emily went straight to the reception desk. "I'd like to speak with Mr. William Parker, the building owner." The receptionist looked her up and down. Emily was wearing her best clothes, but it was still evident she didn't belong to that luxurious environment. "Mr. William doesn't see anyone without an appointment, and I need to know the subject. It's about an injustice that happened to my mother, Rebecca Johnson. She was fired yesterday for no reason." "Oh, you're the daughter of the employee who stole the watch. I'm sorry, but this is a matter for the Human Resources Department. I can't bother Mr. William with this." Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she controlled herself. "My mother didn't steal anything. She's the most honest person in the world. Someone needs to hear the truth." Her voice rose, drawing the attention of other people in the lobby. The receptionist signaled to the security guards. "Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you wish to file a complaint, you can go to the legal department." It was at that moment that William was exiting the elevator for an external meeting. He overheard the conversation and watched the young woman being escorted out of the building. Something about that girl's determination touched him deeply. He approached the receptionist. Who was that young woman? "The daughter of a former employee who was fired yesterday for theft. She came here to make a scene." William nodded silently but made a decision. He cancelled his meeting and went back to his office. It was time to investigate more deeply. He called Jennifer. "Jennifer, I need you to do something for me with complete discretion. I want you to pose as a businesswoman interested in renting an office in our building. Schedule a tour with Richard to see the facilities, but don't mention that you're my assistant." "Mr. William, may I ask why?" "I need to observe how he behaves when he thinks I'm not around." Jennifer scheduled the tour for the following afternoon. Meanwhile, William decided to do his own investigating. He took an elevator to the 20th floor and went to the room where Rebecca used to work. He found Richard talking to Brenda, the new cleaning lady hired to replace Rebecca. "Brenda, do you understand the rules clearly? No going through drawers or cabinets, just basic cleaning. And if you see anything suspicious, report it to me immediately." "Yes, Mr. Richard, you can count on me." William hid behind a column and continued watching. "Oh, and Brenda, your salary will be $1,200. It's a fair wage for the work." William almost choked. Rebecca had been making $2,100 after 15 years with the company. Brenda was being hired for almost half that amount. When Richard walked away, William approached Brenda. "Excuse me, are you new here?" "Yes, sir, I started today." "And what happened to the previous employee?" Brenda lowered her voice. "I heard she stole something. But between you and me, I've worked at other places where Mr. Richard was the boss. He always finds a way to fire the long-time employees. Word is, it's to save on salary." William felt his blood boil. His suspicion was being confirmed. "Could you repeat that in writing?" Brenda got scared. "Who are you? I don't want any trouble." "I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. My name is William Parker. I am the owner of this building." The woman turned pale. "Mr. William, I didn't know. Please don't fire me. I need this job." "Calm down, Brenda. You won't be fired. In fact, you can help me bring about some justice." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. That afternoon, Jennifer presented herself at Richard's office as Sonia Ferreira, a businesswoman in the consulting field interested in renting an office. "Mr. Richard, I've heard wonderful things about the management of this building. They say you keep everything running perfectly." Richard puffed up with pride. "It's true, Ms. Ferreira. I maintain strict discipline here. I don't tolerate lazy or dishonest employees." "That's good to hear. Security is fundamental for me. Have you had any problems with theft?" "We have had a few cases, yes, but I resolved them quickly. Just yesterday, I fired a cleaning lady who stole a very expensive watch. You can't go easy on these people." Jennifer pretended to be impressed. "Wow, an expensive watch. That must have been a big loss." Richard hesitated for a second. "Well, actually, it was more about the trust, you know. I can't accept that kind of behavior." Jennifer noticed the hesitation and pressed a little more. "Of course, I understand perfectly. Did you file a police report?" "It wasn't necessary. The employee confessed and left quietly. Sometimes it's better to handle these things internally." Jennifer left the meeting with valuable information. Richard had lied about Rebecca's confession, and it was clear there was no stolen watch. Meanwhile, Rebecca was spending her third day looking for a job without success. Wherever she went, doors closed as soon as she mentioned her last job. In the afternoon, she decided to try a different approach and went to Mrs. Margaret's house, an old client for whom she cleaned on weekends. Mrs. Margaret, 72 years old, had known Rebecca for over 10 years and always treated her like family. "Rebecca, what a surprise, but don't you only come on Saturdays?" "Mrs. Margaret, I need to talk to you. Something very serious happened." Rebecca told the whole story, and Mrs. Margaret was outraged. "This is absurd, Rebecca. You would never do such a thing. That Richard must be up to something." "Mrs. Margaret, do you know anyone who can help me? Someone with influence? I can't stand seeing my daughter suffering because of this anymore." Mrs. Margaret thought for a moment. "Look, my dear, I know Dr. Gregory. He's a lawyer and very good. He's helped me with some problems before. He can at least guide you on your rights." "Mrs. Margaret, I don't have money to pay a lawyer." "Leave that to me. Dr. Gregory is a friend of mine for decades. I'll talk to him." That night, Mrs. Margaret called Dr. Gregory Thompson, a labor lawyer with 40 years of experience. "Gregory, I need a favor. A friend of mine was unfairly fired and is going through a very difficult situation." Dr. Gregory agreed to see Rebecca the next day without charging for the first consultations. Meanwhile, William continued his investigations. He had discovered that Richard had been running a scheme for almost 2 years, always making up reasons to fire long-term employees and hire new ones for lower wages. But there was something else bothering him. William remembered his own childhood. His mother, Ruth, had been a cleaning lady for years to support the family after his father abandoned them. She suffered humiliations similar to those Richard imposed on his employees. Ruth had passed away 5 years ago, but William never forgot her tears when she came home after a difficult day of work. She always said, "William, when you grow up and have the means, remember to treat humble people well. They have dignity too." It was with that memory in mind that William decided to act. He couldn't allow Richard to keep destroying innocent lives. The next morning, Rebecca went to Dr. Gregory's office. He received her kindly and listened carefully to the whole story. "Mrs. Johnson, legally you have rights. Termination for cause requires concrete evidence. If there was no proper investigation or police report, your dismissal may be considered illegal." "Dr. Gregory, but I have no way to prove my innocence. He said the cameras were broken." "That's what's interesting. In a corporate building of that size, it's very unlikely the cameras would be under maintenance for so long. Let's look into that, Dr. Gregory picked up the phone and called some contacts. In no time, she discovered that the company responsible for maintaining the cameras had not been called to the central tower in the last 3 months. "Mrs. Rebecca, the cameras weren't under maintenance. That means there's a recording of what happened in the office. We'll file a motion to get access to those images." For the first time in days, Rebecca felt a spark of hope. Meanwhile, William decided to take the next step in his investigation. He scheduled a meeting with Richard, saying he wanted to discuss the building's security. Richard, I'm concerned about the number of thefts we've had lately. Could you show me exactly what was stolen? Richard began to sweat. Well, Mr. William, they were small items. An expensive pen here, a watch there. Nothing that justifies a deeper investigation. I see. And do you have photos of these items? For the insurance? Photos? No, Mr. William. I don't photograph everything I have in the office. Of course, but the watch that was stolen yesterday, you must have an invoice for it, right? To prove the value. Richard grew visibly nervous. Well, the watch was a gift. I don't have an invoice. Who was it from? We can contact the person to confirm the value for the insurance. Mr. William, with all due respect, is all this investigation necessary? The employee has already been fired. The problem is solved. William stared intently at Richard. Richard, how long have you been working here? 2 years, Mr. William. And how many employees have you fired for theft in that time? Richard hesitated. Well, a few. I don't keep an exact count. I do. There were 7 people, all from the cleaning staff, all with over 10 years of service. Don't you find that a strange coincidence? Richard's face turned red. Mr. William, if you're questioning my work, I am indeed questioning it, Richard, and know that I will investigate each one of these terminations. If I find there was any irregularity, the consequences will be severe. Richard left the meeting visibly shaken. He knew he was in trouble. That afternoon, Emily came home from her prep course and found her mother a bit more cheerful. Mom, what happened? You seem different. Emily, we might have a chance to prove my innocence. Mrs. Margaret referred me to a lawyer, and he believes we can turn this situation around. Emily hugged her mother tightly. I knew it, Mom. I knew the truth would come out. This Richard won't be able to destroy our family. But the joy was short-lived. When Rebecca went to get the mail, she found a letter from the real estate agency. It was a payment notice for the house installment, due in 5 days. If she didn't pay, she would lose the property she had fought so hard to get. Rebecca sat on the porch and cried. Even if she could prove her innocence, she wouldn't have time to find a job before losing the house. Mrs. Dorothy, who was passing by on the street, saw her friend crying and approached. Rebecca, what is it now? Dorothy, even if I manage to prove I didn't steal anything, it's already too late. I'm going to lose the house. I'm going to lose everything. Don't talk like that, my dear. God doesn't abandon those who are just. You'll see, everything will work out. As the two were talking, a luxury car stopped in front of the house. An elegant man in an expensive suit got out and walked toward them. Sorry to bother you. I'm looking for Mrs. Rebecca Johnson. Rebecca stood up, wiping her tears. That's me. My name is William Parker. I am the owner of the Central Tower. May we talk? Rebecca was frozen. Mrs. Dorothy held her by the arm. Mr. William, what do you want with Rebecca? I want to hear her version of what happened. And I want to apologize. Rebecca couldn't believe what she was hearing. The building owner had come to her humble home on the outskirts. Mr. William, would you like to come in? The house is simple, but... Of course, Mrs. Rebecca. I'll be honored. They sat in the small room. William looked around and saw the family photos, Emily's school books scattered on the table, the simplicity and dignity of that home. Mrs. Rebecca, I reviewed all the security camera footage. There was never any watch in Richard's office, never. Rebecca broke down in tears of relief. Mr. William, I knew the truth would come out. I never took anything that wasn't mine. I know that, Mrs. Rebecca, and more than that. I discovered Richard has been firing long-time employees for 2 years with false accusations to hire people for lower wages. Mrs. Dorothy was outraged. What a shameless man, destroying families out of greed. That's why I'm here personally, Mrs. Rebecca. I want to offer you not just reinstatement, but a promotion and compensation for the injustice you suffered. Rebecca couldn't stop crying. Mr. William, you can't imagine what this means to me. I was about to lose my home. My daughter would have to drop out of school. It was at that moment that Emily arrived from her prep course and nearly fainted when she saw the elegant man sitting in her living room. Mom, what's happening? Emily, come here. This is Mr. William Parker. He came to give us good news. William stood up and greeted Emily. "You must be the brave young woman who came to my building to defend your mother. I was impressed by your determination." Emily blushed. "Mr. William, I just couldn't stand by and watch my mother suffer an injustice. And it was exactly that courage that showed me the character of this family. That's why, in addition to reinstating your mother, I want to offer you a full scholarship to the university of your choice." Emily looked at her mother in disbelief. "Mr. William, is this true?" "Yes, it's true. Young people like you deserve every opportunity to grow." Rebecca hugged her daughter, and they both cried tears of happiness. Mrs. Dorothy was also moved. "Mr. William, you're an angel sent by God," said the elderly woman. William smiled. "Actually, Mrs. Dorothy, it was my own mother who taught me about justice. She was also a cleaner and suffered similar humiliations. I promised her that if I ever had the means, I would defend people like Mrs. Rebecca." The next day, William called a general meeting with all the building employees. Richard thought it would be a routine meeting and attended normally. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. To everyone, I've called this meeting to address a very serious matter, William began. I've discovered that some employees have been unfairly dismissed over the past 2 years. Richard began to sweat. During an investigation I conducted, I uncovered a scheme of false accusations to fire long-time employees and hire new ones for lower wages. A murmur spread through the auditorium. Many employees looked directly at Richard. The person responsible for this scheme will be terminated immediately and will face legal consequences for their actions. William looked directly at Richard. "Richard Wilson, you're fired for cause, and you will be sued for moral damages by all affected employees." Richard stood up, trembling. "Mr. William, I can explain—" "There's nothing to explain, Richard. I have proof of everything. Security, please escort Mr. Richard out of the building." The irony of the situation wasn't lost on anyone. Richard was being escorted out in the same manner he had done to Rebecca. "Additionally," William continued, "all unfairly dismissed employees will be reinstated if they wish, with compensation and promotion." The applause was spontaneous and emotional. And to conclude, I'm pleased to announce that Mrs. Rebecca Johnson will be our new Quality and Customer Service Supervisor. She will implement changes to ensure situations like this never happen again. When Rebecca entered the auditorium, wearing a new and elegant uniform, all employees stood up and applauded. Many were crying with emotion. Rebecca approached the microphone with tears in her eyes. "Everyone, thank you so much for your kindness. I promise I'll work so that everyone is treated with the dignity they deserve. No matter what our role is, we're all important." Brenda, the cleaner who had temporarily replaced Rebecca, approached her after the meeting. "Mrs. Johnson, thank you for not holding it against me when you found out I reported Richard's scheme. Brenda, you did the right thing, and now you'll be hired permanently with the fair salary you deserve." In the following weeks, Rebecca implemented revolutionary changes in the building. She created a direct communication channel between employees and management, established training sessions about labor rights, and instituted an employee recognition program for dedicated workers. Emily got into medical school with the scholarship offered by William. On enrollment day, she hugged her emotional mother. "Mom, without your strength and honesty, I never would have made it here. Emily, without your courage to defend me, I might never have been able to prove my innocence." William also made important personal changes. He created an assistance fund for employees in need and established that a percentage of the company's profits would go towards scholarships for employees' children. Dr. Gregory, the lawyer who had helped Rebecca, was impressed with the outcome of the case. "Mrs. Johnson, in 40 years of practicing law, I've never seen a business owner act with such dignity. Mr. William is truly special." Dr. Gregory, he told me his mother was also a cleaner. I think that made all the difference. A few months later, Rebecca was visited by other cleaners who had been unfairly fired by Richard. They were all reinstated and received their compensations. One of them, Mrs. Helen, 58 years old, hugged Rebecca, crying, "Rebecca, if you hadn't had the courage to fight, all of us would still be lost today. You saved our families. Mrs. Helen, what saved us was justice and Mr. William's honesty. He could have ignored the situation, but he chose to do what was right. Rebecca's case became known in the city and inspired other companies to review their employee treatment policies. William was invited to give lectures about corporate social responsibility. In one of these lectures, he told Rebecca's story. I learned that true wealth isn't measured by what we accumulate, but by the good we do for the people around us. My mother taught me that while being a cleaner. Mrs. Johnson reminded me of that lesson by being a victim of injustice. Rebecca watched the lecture from the audience, proud to work for someone with such solid values. After the event, William approached her. Mrs. Johnson, I have a proposal. How about we create a professional training program for cleaning staff throughout the city? We could offer free courses and growth opportunities. Mr. William, that's a wonderful idea. How many people we could help? The program was launched 6 months later and became a national model. Hundreds of cleaning professionals were able to train and get better jobs. Emily, already in her second year of medical school, volunteered to teach first aid classes in the program. Seeing her daughter helping others filled Rebecca with pride. One day, Emily commented to her mother, "Mom, do you realize how our lives have completely changed? A year ago, we were desperate, without hope. Today, we are helping other families find hope as well." Emily, I learned that when we go through hardships, it's not to destroy us, but to prepare us to help those going through the same situation. Mrs. Dorothy, who followed the family's entire journey, always said, "Rebecca, you proved that being honest pays off. Even when it seems like the world is conspiring against us, the truth always wins in the end." 2 years after the incident, Rebecca was promoted again, this time to Director of Human Resources. Her first decision was to create a strict protocol for terminations, ensuring no employee could be harmed without a proper investigation. Richard, who had been sued and convicted, never worked in human resources again. He had to reimburse all the affected employees and completed a sentence of community service. In an irony of fate, he ended up working in the training program created by Rebecca and William, where he learned about dignity in the workplace. William married 2 years later to Jennifer, his assistant, who fell in love with his character during the entire investigation of Rebecca's case. The wedding was simple, but full of emotion. Rebecca and Emily were special guests. During the speech, William said, "Jennifer, you helped me uncover the truth about an injustice. Now, I want you by my side to build an increasingly fair and humane company." Rebecca, who was at the head table, was moved to hear the words of her boss, who had become a great friend. Emily graduated from medical school at 23 and decided to specialize in social medicine, working in underprivileged communities. During her graduation, she gave an emotional speech. "I dedicate this achievement to my mother, who taught me that dignity cannot be bought or sold, and to Mr. William, who showed me that successful people should use their success to help others." Rebecca cried with pride in the audience. Her daughter had become not only a doctor, but a person committed to social justice. On the day Emily received her diploma, William approached Rebecca. "Mrs. Johnson, look at what your honesty and determination have produced. A doctor who will help thousands of people. You must be very proud." "Mr. Parker, I am grateful every day for your attitude. If you hadn't investigated the case, our lives would have been completely different." "Mrs. Johnson, I am the one who should be thankful. You reminded me of the values my mother taught me. You made me a better person." 5 years after the unfair termination incident, Rebecca was invited to give a lecture at a national conference on labor rights. She, who was once just an invisible cleaner, was now recognized as an expert in human relations at work. During her speech, she said, "I spent 15 years cleaning offices, being treated as invisible. Today I understand that the real cleaning work we need to do is in how we treat each other. No matter our social or professional position, we all deserve dignity and respect." The audience rose in applause. In the crowd, William and Emily cried with emotion. After the lecture, a young businessman approached Rebecca. "Mrs. Johnson, your story inspired me. I want to implement the same changes in my company. Could you guide me?" "Of course, young man. When we treat people with dignity, everyone wins. The environment improves, productivity increases, and most importantly, we sleep with a clear conscience. William's company became a national benchmark for social responsibility. Employees from all over the country wanted to work there, not just for the salaries, but for the respectful and humane environment. Rebecca created a blog where she shared experiences about dignity in the workplace. The blog gained thousands of followers and became an important tool for employees who suffered abuse. One of the most striking messages she received was from a young cleaning lady from Chicago. "Mrs. Rebecca Johnson, I read your story and found the courage to report the mistreatment I suffer at my job. Thank you for showing me that we have rights and that we can fight for them." These messages reinforced for Rebecca the importance of her struggle having gone beyond the limits of her own life. Emily, now a certified doctor, opened a community clinic in the neighborhood where she grew up. She offered free or low-cost care for the needy community. At the clinic's opening ceremony, Rebecca cut the ribbon together with her daughter. "Mom, this clinic exists because you taught me that we should give back to the community the good we have received. Emily, seeing you achieve your dreams and still help other people is the greatest reward I could have." William Parker financed part of the clinic's equipment and became a constant partner in the family's social projects. Mrs. Dorothy, at 75 years old, became a volunteer at Emily's clinic, helping with patient reception. She always said, "It's never too late to make a difference in someone's life. You inspired me not to stand still." The training program created by Rebecca and William expanded to other states. They received national awards for social responsibility and were invited to advise public policies for worker dignity. During an awards ceremony in Washington, D.C., Rebecca was questioned by a journalist. "Mrs. Rebecca Johnson, how do you assess your journey from the unfair dismissal to becoming a national reference? I learned that difficulties don't come to destroy us, but to prepare us for something greater. If I hadn't gone through that injustice, I might never have discovered my calling to help other people." William, who was by her side, added, "And I learned that being a business owner goes far beyond profits. Our responsibility is to create a fairer world for everyone." The partnership between Rebecca and William became a model studied in business administration universities. They were invited to international lectures, taking the United States example of harmony between capital and labor. Emily specialized in occupational medicine and began collaborating with William's company, taking care of the employees' occupational health. The family had become a team dedicated to social justice. One day, Rebecca received an unexpected call. It was Richard, her former persecutor. "Mrs. Rebecca Johnson, I know I don't deserve your attention, but I need to ask for forgiveness. What I did to you was unforgivable." Rebecca remained silent for a moment. "Richard, I forgive you. Holding on to resentment doesn't do anyone any good. I hope you have learned from your mistakes." "I have learned, Mrs. Rebecca Johnson. I now work in the training program you created. Every day I see the good you do for people, and I regret even more what I did. Richard, what matters is that you changed. Use your experience to warn others about the dangers of greed and dishonesty." This phone call deeply marked Rebecca. She realized that forgiveness had completed her emotional healing. 10 years after the initial episode, Rebecca was invited to write a book about her experience. The book, From Mop to Dignity, became a bestseller and inspired millions of people. In the book's dedication, she wrote, "To my daughter Emily, who taught me that courage has no age, to Mr. William Parker, who showed me that there are good people in the world, to Mrs. Dorothy, who gave me strength in the most difficult moments, and to the memory of all humble workers who suffer injustices silently." During the book launch, Emily, now 28 years old and already a mother to a baby, gave an emotional speech. "My mother always told me that our financial situation didn't define our character. Today I see she was right. True wealth lies in the dignity with which we live and the good we do for others." William, who had become the heart grandfather to Rebecca's granddaughter, held the baby during the event. "This child will grow up in a better world, thanks to her grandmother's fight," he said, moved. Little Dorothy Rose, named in honor of the two most important women in Emily's life, had become the symbol of a fairer future. At the end of the launch, an elderly lady approached Rebecca. Mrs. Johnson, I'm the mother of a cleaner who was unfairly fired from the company where she worked. Your story gave us hope to fight. Today my daughter has already gotten a better job and is studying to become a nursing technician. Stories like this constantly reached Rebecca, confirming that her fight had transcended personal boundaries and become a movement for social transformation. William's company expanded to other countries, always carrying the same values of respect and dignity for employees. The United States model of corporate social responsibility became a global reference. Emily opened 2 more community clinics and created a medical residency program focused on social medicine. Young doctors from all over the country wanted to be part of the project. Mrs. Dorothy, at 80 years old, remained active as a volunteer and always said, "Rebecca, seeing what you all have built fills me with pride. It proves that a determined person can change the world." One Sunday morning, 15 years after the firing incident, Rebecca woke up early and went to the balcony of her new home. She had bought a larger house in the same neighborhood to remain close to the community that welcomed her during difficult times. Looking at the garden where her granddaughter played, she reflected on the entire journey. The pain of injustice had transformed into fuel for a change that exceeded all her expectations. Emily approached, bringing coffee. "Mom, what are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking that if someone had told me, on that morning when I was fired, that 15 years later I would be a national reference in workers' rights, I wouldn't have believed it. Mom, you always had that strength. The injustice only revealed what was already inside you." William arrived for Sunday lunch, a tradition they had maintained for years. At 67 years old, he remained active at the helm of his businesses, always guided by the values he learned from Rebecca. "Mrs. Johnson, I have news. The government has invited us to create a National Institute for Worker Dignity. It will be funded through public-private partnerships." "Mr. Parker, that's wonderful. We'll be able to help even more people. The board will be yours, of course. There's no one more qualified for this." During lunch, they planned the next steps for the institute. Little Dorothy Rose, now 5 years old, listened attentively to the adults' conversations. "Grandma Rebecca, when I grow up, will I help people like you do too?" Rebecca picked up her granddaughter. "My dear, you can help people by always being honest, treating everyone with kindness, and remembering that everyone is important, no matter what work they do." In the afternoon, they visited Mrs. Dorothy, who at 85 years old remained lucid and active. The elderly woman always welcomed the family with joy. "Rebecca, my dear, do you remember when you cried on my balcony, thinking your life was over?" "I do remember, Mrs. Dorothy. You were my guardian angel during those difficult days. And look at you today. You help thousands of people. Emily is a respected doctor, and even Mr. William became more human after meeting you all." William laughed. "It's true, Mrs. Dorothy. This family taught me that money without purpose is worthless." When they returned home that evening, Rebecca found a pile of thank you letters that arrived weekly. One caught her attention. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm the son of a cleaning lady who was unfairly fired 5 years ago. Your story inspired us to fight, and today my mother got a dignified job. I'm graduating from law school and want to specialize in labor rights. Thank you for showing us that fighting for justice is worth it." That letter confirmed to Rebecca that her struggle had created a movement that would carry on through new generations. In the last week before the inauguration of the National Institute for Worker Dignity, Rebecca reflected deeply on her journey. From a humiliated cleaning lady to director of a national institute, she had traveled a path that seemed impossible. But what made her proudest wasn't the titles or recognition. It was knowing that thousands of people had their lives improved because of her initial fight for justice. Emily, now coordinating 3 community clinics and mother of 2 children, remained her greatest pride. The girl who once ran to defend her wronged mother had become a woman dedicated to caring for the most needy. William had become more than a boss or friend. He was like a brother, united by the same values and purposes. His company had become a global model of social responsibility, proving it's possible to be financially successful while maintaining human values. On the day of the Institute's inauguration, hundreds of people attended. There were cleaning ladies, doormen, security guards, business owners, politicians, journalists, all united by the same ideal of dignity at work. During her inauguration speech, Rebecca said, "15 years ago, I was unfairly fired from my job. At that moment, I thought my life was over. Today, I realize it was actually beginning. The injustice I suffered became fuel for a struggle that benefited thousands of people. I learned that our greatest failures can become our greatest triumphs, as long as we don't give up fighting for what's right." The audience rose in prolonged applause. In the front row, Emily held her children, moved. William had tears in his eyes. Mrs. Dorothy, despite her age limitations, had insisted on being present. After the ceremony, a young cleaning lady approached Rebecca. "Mrs. Johnson, I work at a company where I'm mistreated every day. I heard your story and found courage to seek help. Can you guide me?" "Of course, my dear. This institute exists exactly for people like you. No one deserves to be humiliated at work." This encounter perfectly symbolized the continuity of Rebecca's mission. Every person helped would multiply the chain of dignity and respect. That evening at home, Rebecca sat in the garden with Emily and her grandchildren. Little Dorothy Rose, now 5 years old, asked, "Grandma, why did that bad man fire you?" "Sweetheart, sometimes people do wrong things out of greed or malice, but what matters is not giving up on doing what's right." "And did you beat the bad man?" Emily answered. "We didn't beat the bad man, Dorothy Rose. We beat malice with kindness. That's much more important." The boy, Michael William, 3 years old, named after his godfather, asked, "Grandma Rebecca, when I grow up, will I have a big company too?" "Michael, what matters isn't having a big company, but having a big heart. If you always treat people with kindness, you'll already be a great success." At 60 years old, Rebecca felt fulfilled. Not just for her personal achievements, but mainly for turning her pain into hope for others. She thought of her mother, who had passed away when Emily was little, and imagined how proud she would be to see her granddaughter becoming a doctor and her daughter turning into a national role model. She also thought of her husband, Emily's father, who hadn't lived to see their daughter grow up, but who would certainly be proud of the strong and determined woman she had raised. End of story. So, dear listeners, what did you think of this story of overcoming and justice? Rebecca taught us that honesty and determination always win in the end. Tell us in the comments, do you believe William took the right action? Leave your honest opinions and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories.